What's up, everybody? This is Dell. Welcome to Dell on Movies. And today I got something a little bit different than what I normally do. I got a double feature movie review for you. I went to the theaters twice over the weekend, and I saw two very different movies. And I won't spoil exactly, even though the title might have already spoiled it for you. But let's talk about these two movies. I went to see on Saturday, went to see Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning, and then on Sunday I turned around and went and I saw Final Destination: Bloodlines. So with uh, let's start with Final Destination: Bloodlines because there's not a whole lot to say about this movie. Um, we follow a girl, we follow a teenager like always. They get the premonition at the beginning, everybody dies, and then we got to figure out, once they wake up and save some people, we got to figure out who death is going to get next. The twist here though is that the girl, and this is not a spoiler, the twist here is that the girl who has the vision is actually of someone from her past that is involved, not her. um, and then she has to figure out why she's dreaming about this every night. That's the early part of it. And then, eventually we do just get into the regular, who's death going to get next, or they're going to get you next, and how do you survive? Nothing groundbreaking here. I will say that opening sequence, it happens in a tower that is a lot like Seattle, the Seattle Tower, um, and it's pretty spectacular. We got a lot of CGI, of course, but it's pretty spectacular. I will give it that. That was really fun. Lots of gore. The most earned death was one you wouldn't think going into the movie. You wouldn't think, but after a couple of minutes of watching this particular character, you'd be like, "Oh yeah, yeah, I'm glad that that person dies." I won't spoil it, so go check it out. Um, yeah, we got lots of things happening over this first sequence, and for me, this is where the budget of the movie is. Right, it's right in this opening sequence. In a Final Destination movie, that's pretty much where you hook the audience. And I thought they did a pretty good job of it after that. Of that. After that, um, we get some of the most inept, inane writing possible. It's just terrible, terrible writing. Terrible writing. Um, the dialogue is crazy. The characters, none of them, not one is likable. None of them are likable. Um, and that's okay for a slasher movie. Yes, death is a slasher in these movies. It's okay for a slasher movie, but we still have to kind of enjoy spending time with them. And, that's kind of iffy whether we do or we don't. We're just kind of waiting for them to get picked off. And the good part is when they do get picked off, we get some fantastic scenes. The bad part though is that the movie overplays its hand. Uh, a lot of horror movies now they're living on the jump scare. They're based everything on jump scare. So it's like jump scare, jump scare, jump scare over and over and over and over and over. Well, this movie does a similar thing, but they do it with the Final Destination, I don't know if you want to call it the Final Destination shot or setup. If you go back to all the other movies, there's that scene, there's that moment right before a character's going to die. Things either might slow down, you might hear wind or the zoom in on strange objects or household objects, whatever's, around. And then things go haywire and there's a death. Well, in this movie, every single object is focused on like, okay, we're starting. No, we're not starting. We're starting. No, we're not starting. We're starting again. We're here. So it's like every 10 seconds, the camera just zooms in and focuses on something like, ooh, is this gonna be the thing that takes out this person who's in the room? And we do that so much that that's like most of the movie. It gets to be a bit annoying. But when the deaths do happen, like I said, they are fun, they are satisfying. So don't really have a problem with that. All in all, I would say it's a really, really, really dumb movie, but a really, really, really fun movie. All right. So it's not good, but it's fun. I will watch it again. I may watch it 10 more times just because it's fun. Okay. Is it bad? Absolutely. Did I have a blast? Absolutely. And that's the problem with the next movie. Let's talk about Mission Impossible, The Final Reckoning. Well, let's start with the good stuff. Let's start with good stuff. Um, First, the look of the movie is fantastic in sort of a retro way. It's kind of hard to explain if you haven't seen the movie. It doesn't look ultra digital, right? It looks like an old movie, but also looks like a new movie at the same time. It's weird. You have to see it to understand what I'm talking about. So, and I get why they did that because this is the finale of a franchise that started back in 1996, and so they kind of wanted to push the nostalgia buttons and do a lot of callbacks, and they definitely did. There's callbacks all over this movie, everywhere you look, and some of them are good because like, oh, that's cool. For instance, there's one date that particular comes up in the movie, and as soon as it came on the screen, without me actually knowing the date, I'm like, I bet that that's what that date is. And they tell you they give a movie reason for that date, and then but in my head, I'm like, that's got to be it. And turns out it was. I won't spoil what that is either. Um, Performances pretty solid, pretty strong across the board. We get some heartfelt moments from believe it or not, Tom Cruise, who's not for me never been a heartfelt kind of guy as far as acting goes, even in stuff like Jerry Maguire. I mean, it was cool, and I like Jerry Maguire. Don't get me wrong, but Tom Cruise movies, he generally doesn't do that kind of thing for me. Ving Rhames gives us some really good moments throughout his time on the screen, and uh, like I said, just performances across the board, pretty solid, nothing great. And then of course there's stunts, and in this case, it's really the plane stunt at the end of the movie. That is what everybody was hyped about, and it didn't disappoint. Tom Cruise just out of his mind, just climbing all over this plane that's flying along, and yeah, it's a sight to see, right? And I haven't watched the making of or anything like that, but apparently he was having to deal with the camera also, not just just it's crazy. You got to kind of see it. Um, then we get to the other side of the coin, the bad things, and for me, it leaned really heavily on nostalgia, and it just kept giving you thing after thing after thing after thing, and that wasn't so bad, except that they like I said, they overplayed their hand. So every character that showed up on screen was either an old character from this franchise earlier in the franchise or had a link to an earlier character from the franchise, almost everyone. Um, so they did that a lot. And then we got all the little Easter eggs like the dates and other little things that pop up and here and there throughout the movie. So that was cool. Um, but the thing that really, really, really just destroyed this movie for me was the writing. And because, well, first off, let's get going back to the Easter eggs and all. They're so focused on fan service that they're not really telling a good story, right? Mission Impossible story is pretty simple. We get the mission, we get the mission on some kind of recording. It's going to self-destruct. We get the opening credits, and on that message was the MacGuffin, whatever we got to chase around. So now that's set in motion after the opening credits. Tom Cruise has got to chase this thing around the world and go to hell and back trying to get this thing right. And he's got his team in tow, and we got all kinds of stunts. Da, 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 da. That's basically a Mission Impossible movie. That's the formula. We get that here, except they take that formula and instead of having it here, having it be this big, they take that formula and they stretch it out for no apparent reason. Here's what I mean. The way the scenes work in this movie, or the way the movie works, is this: it's on a cycle, it's on a loop. Um, so yeah, we get the self-destructing message, we get the opening credits, but and then we start. All right. So Tom Cruise meets up with either a member of his team or someone he's going to work with or all of his team, and they formulate a plan, right? Pretty much in real time. They come up with a plan. And well, even if they don't come up with the plan in real time, they tell you what the plan is. They explain this plan in painstaking detail, right? All of the things that need to happen and all of the things that could happen if it goes wrong. And then somebody be like, wait, you mean all of this has got to go right and this has got to happen and this has got to happen all at the same time? Yes. Great. It's like they just broke the huddle in a football game. Then they kind of start down the path of that. Something goes wrong and we get a short action scene, either a fight or some other thing that happens and it goes by pretty quickly. And then we start the cycle again. Tom Cruise runs into somebody. We gotta figure out a way to do this. Okay, I forgot. They always tell you that the world is going to end in 3 days, right? So we start the cycle again. Oh well, this went wrong, but now we got to find it. We only have this much time. You know the world is going to end, right? Who can we trust? And da 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 da. Okay, plan. Blah 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 blah. Oh, this has got to go right. Yes. What if it doesn't? Well, Tom Cruise could die and the entire world is going to blow up. Okay, let's go. And we start the cycle again. And then we do that over and over and over and over and over for 3 freaking hours. I was bored out of my skull. I'm sorry. I know everybody else in the world is just loving all over this movie, just slobbing all over this movie. Or, it's the culmination of a fantastic franchise. I have a kind of a love-hate relationship with this franchise anyway. Not the hugest fan of the first. Didn't care for the second and the third. Really loved the fourth. Really liked the fourth and the fifth, I should say. And then we got Fallout, was just amazing. And then we got the last movie, The Day of Reckoning, or Dead Reckoning, whatever it's called. Solid, not great. And now we get this. So pretty up and down franchise for me. And I think it ends on a whimper and not a bang. Um, and it's really just that writing that's just cyclical and overwritten and just goes on forever. And it's a lot of time telling me instead of showing me. If you've heard me review movies before, I'm always talking about show, don't tell. They're telling me. They're just telling me over and over and over and over and over. And it seems to never stop. When we do get some action, a lot of times, like I said, the scenes are kind of short. The action is muted for the most part until we get to the big plane scene. And I don't think I'm spoiling anything, telling you that that's the finale, because that's the big set piece that everybody's all pumped up about. So until we get that, everything is kind of short. Fight scenes are short, not as good, not shot as well as they usually are, for the most part. So yeah, it's a big miss for me on Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning. Um, I would say 2.5 stars out of 5 on my letterbox. And some of you are going to be pissed off because I also gave 2.5 stars out of 5 to Final Destination Bloodlines. Uh, and I would really bump that one up to 3 simply because I enjoyed it. I had fun with it. With Mission Impossible, I was just sitting there like, oh my God, is this ever going to end? Which brings me to a saying that I usually say: it's a 3-hour movie that should have been 2 hours. And in this case, less than 2 hours. I have the same feeling about Avengers Endgame. It's a lot of fan service, not a lot of movie. So what's going to happen to a lot of people is that they're going to watch this movie again at home. If they've already seen this movie in the theater and they watch it again at home, there's a pretty good chance that you will be like, oh, this is not as great, because nothing's really happening. It's just, droning on and telling me about things from the past. Of course, unless, you're just into all the fan service and the Easter eggs, and which time you'll continue to have a blast with it. Will not be my cup of tea. I will see this movie again, I'm sure, because I'm going to watch the whole franchise again, because I haven't seen a lot of these movies in years. Um, but as of now, this is near the bottom of my rankings if I was doing that. I'm gonna rewatch them all before I actually rank them. But that's where I stand, guys. Sorry. Let me know what you think of Final Destination Bloodlines. Let me know what you think of Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning. Let me know that I'm off my rocker or that I'm absolutely 100% right. Do that down in the comment section. That's all I have for you today. Thanks for hanging out with me. If you've been here before, thanks for hanging out with me again. Catch you later, guys.